Welcome to the deep dive. Look, if you're a frontline manager or supervisor, you know you're in a really critical spot in the organization. You're basically the human interface, right, between the big strategy talk and actually getting things done.
Exactly. And you, our listeners, you asked for a really in-depth sort of instructional look based on a comprehensive leadership plan.
Yeah, so today, our mission is really to unpack that. It's a structured curriculum tailored specifically for you folks on the front line. We're zeroing in on the two, massive pillars that really determine if a team clicks. Accountability.
Which is about getting the job done, making sure things happen.
Right, and engagement, which is more about how the job gets done. The fuel, you could say.
And this curriculum, it spans several months, March through September 2025 in the source material. It lays out a necessary sequence. Accountability kind of sets the baseline.
Things like personal accountability in action, level setting clear expectations.
Following up with open communication, all crucial. But today, we're pivoting. We're going deep on engagement.
Because this is where leaders truly earn their stripes, isn't it? The data we look at is just stark.
It really is the manager. Just the manager alone drives an astounding 70% of the variance in team engagement.
70%. Wow. That's not just a statistic. That's
that's
leverage defined, right? If you want that game-changing performance, you have to master these engagement mechanics.
Absolutely. So we're going to walk through the core competencies. The roadmap laid out for June, July, and September. It's all about optimizing that team environment.
Okay, so let's start at the very foundation. June's focus. Building foundational trust and healthy relationships.
Right. To start building trust, but intentionally. The curriculum kicks off with competency 1. It's a concept that tries to give trust a kind of mathematical structure. It's called the trust equation.
Okay, the trust equation. Let's unpack this right away. Because, this isn't some fluffy concept. It's presented as a pretty cold, hard formula designed to calculate trustworthiness.
It's a fraction. You've got credibility plus reliability plus intimacy.
All in the numerator, the top part.
Divided by self-orientation. That's the denominator, the bottom part.
And the goal for you, the frontline leader, is pretty straightforward then.
Yeah.
Get a high trust score. Maximize the top stuff. Minimize the bottom stuff.
Exactly. So let's look at that numerator first. It represents competence and connection, essentially. First up is credibility.
This is foundational, right?
Yeah.
Are you believable? Are you actually competent, skillful, knowledgeable in the area you manage?
Yeah. If you lack the basic expertise for your role, your credibility score takes a hit. Doesn't matter how nice you are, really.
Okay, then you've got reliability. This feels like pure consistency.
It is. Are you dependable, predictable, and maybe most importantly, do you actually keep your promises?
I can see how new managers might stumble here. You're enthusiastic, you overcommit.
And then you fail to deliver. That's a huge withdrawal from the team's trust account right there.
Huge. Okay, and the third part of the numerator, intimacy. This sounds a bit more subjective.
It is. It's definitely the most human and often the hardest one to measure objectively. It's the safety factor. Do you help others feel comfortable sharing? Are you, appropriately vulnerable yourself, sharing relevant personal stuff?
And handling sensitive information well. If someone discloses something important.
Exactly. Handling it with the care it requires. This component really determines the depth of the relationship. And that depth is critical when, say, a crisis hits.
So high C, high R, high I. That's the goal for the top. But then there's the denominator. This is where the equation gets volatile. Self-orientation, S.
Right. This is all about the degree to which a leader focuses on themselves versus focusing on their team.
So if the team is thinking, she only cares about her bonus, or he always throws us under the bus to look good,
then your self-orientation score is sky high. And because that score is a divisor, it's on the bottom. Even if you're super credible and totally reliable, a high self-orientation score just drags your entire trustworthiness score down, way down.
Towards zero, potentially.
Yeah. And the curriculum is clear for their assessment. A score of 1 in S, meaning minimal self-focus, that's the best possible score you can get.
Okay, what's fascinating is the application they suggest. Rate a leader you deeply trusted from your past on all 4 parts. Use like a 1 to 10 scale for C, R, and I.
And then for S, self-orientation, it's 1 to 10, but 1 is the best score. Remember that.
Right, 1 is best for S. Then the hard part, Rate yourself.
Yeah, that self-rating part.
Yeah.
It's designed to create some friction, some cognitive dissonance. As managers, we tend to have this positive bias about our own intentions, don't we?
Definitely. You think your self-orientation is low, you think you're team-focused.
But maybe the scores you give yourself for intimacy reveal the truth. Perhaps you avoid being vulnerable because you're worried about appearing weak, which ironically is actually a high self-orientation concern. It's about your image.
Interesting. So the point isn't just the final score, it's identifying the specific area for improvement, like the single smallest, most impactful thing you could do.
Exactly. Maybe it's making one small deposit into intimacy, like sharing a relevant challenge you faced. Something to nudge that overall score up.
Okay, that really sets the stage, which leads nicely into competency 2, connecting that daily effort to a kind of practical reserve, the emotional bank account.
Yeah, it's such a perfect, simple metaphor, isn't it? Every single interaction a frontline manager has with an employee. It's either a deposit, building up trust and goodwill,
Or it's a withdrawal, draining that account.
and that reserve, that's what helps you survive the tough stuff later. Difficult conversations, maybe delivering bad news, navigating organizational change, if that account is overdrawn.
Then even a small withdrawal, like a necessary piece of critical feedback, can just trigger an emotional shutdown.
Totally, the relationship can't handle it. So the curriculum details 6 types of major deposits. These are the intentional daily actions that sustain trust.
Okay, what are they?
First, understand the individual. Really know their goals, their family situation maybe, their preferred communication style. Just know them as people.
Second, attend to the little things. Simple stuff, like saying thank you spontaneously. Remembering a work anniversary or even a birthday. Small gestures count.
Third and fourth are really powerful. Keep your commitments that link straight back to reliability in the trust equation.
Makes sense.
And clarify expectations. So much frustration stems from unclear expectations, right? Nailing that down is a huge deposit.
Absolutely.
Fifth is show personal integrity. Basically, practice what you preach, walk the talk. And finally, maybe the most powerful immediate deposit after you mess up.
Let me guess. Apologizing.
You got it. Apologize promptly when a withdrawal is made. Don't wait. Don't make excuses. Just own it.
Yeah, I think that last one is often the hardest for leaders. Admitting you made a mistake. Because thinking about this emotional bank account, it requires you to immediately recognize you've impacted someone else's feelings.
And that's a direct link back to emotional intelligence, or EQ, as you said.
Right.
The manager needs that EQ to sort of reframe a difficult situation. Not see it as a confrontation necessarily, but as a moment where, okay, a withdrawal was just made, now a deposit is urgently needed.
And that intentionality, that reframing, allows a manager to ask maybe a second, deeper question instead of just getting defensive.
Precisely, which is the absolute core of competency 3. Strive for empathetic listening. And we often mix up empathy and sympathy here, don't we?
We do. What's the key difference in this context?
Well, the distinction is vital for leadership. Empathy is genuinely trying to understand how someone else feels, seeing the world through their eyes, their perspective.
Okay.
Sympathy, on the other hand, is often just feeling bad for them. And maybe sometimes there's a tiny sense of relief that, glad that's not my problem.
Right. Leadership demands empathy then to really diagnose the root cause of an issue.
Exactly. The rule they give is simple, but man, it's hard to execute under pressure. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
The analogy used is perfect. Diagnose before you prescribe.
Spot on. If your team member comes to you, maybe with what seems like a simple process complaint, and you immediately jump in with, okay, here's the solution.
You've prescribed a treatment without diagnosing the actual illness.
Right. The underlying issue might be lack of training, or maybe a conflict with a coworker, or even just fear of failing at the new process. You won't know unless you diagnose.
So what's a good diagnostic technique?
Just asking open-ended questions. Things like, tell me more about how that situation made you feel, or help me understand what outcome you're really hoping for here. Instead of defaulting to, okay, here's how we fix it.
That empathetic listening. It provides the rich data you need to then move effectively to competency 4. Aim for win-win or no deal whenever possible.
Yeah, win-win. This requires what they call an abundance mentality, the belief that success isn't a zero-sum game. There's enough for everyone.
And achieving it depends entirely on balancing 2 critical forces, courage and consideration.
That's the tightrope walk. You need the courage to clearly state your own needs, your boundaries, the team's requirements, but you also need the consideration to genuinely recognize and respect the other person's needs and perspective.
And when that balance is off, you get less than ideal outcomes.
Right. The curriculum contrasts 4 main outcomes. If a manager is low on both courage and consideration, they're the lose-lose saboteur. They just create situations where everyone's miserable, nothing gets done, maybe they even undermine things.
Toxic. Okay,
Yeah.
what if they have high consideration, they're really nice, but zero courage?
That's the lose-win doormat. They give away too much just to avoid conflict, keep the peace. But ultimately, resentment builds up in them, and maybe even in the team who sees them getting walked over.
Okay. And the opposite, high courage, low consideration.
Ah, the classic win-lose steamroller. Authoritarian, focused only on their metrics, their goals. They win, but at the expense of team morale, trust, and engagement. Burns people out.
So the ideal is the win-win partner, finding that solution where both sides feel they've gained something, achieved mutual benefit.
Yes. But sometimes the most courageous and considered choice is actually the no-deal option, recognizing when a true win-win is genuinely impossible, and having the integrity to walk away rather than forcing a bad compromise that breeds resentment later.
That takes guts.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've built trust, we're listening empathetically, aiming for win-win. Competency 5 really drives home the core philosophy behind all this.
It does. Invest in strong relationships before expecting strong results.
This is visualized as a pyramid, right?
Yeah.
And it's key for thinking strategically about leadership development, not just task management.
Exactly. Too many frontline leaders focus only on the very top of the pyramid, the results. But the source argues you can't directly change results. You have to work from the bottom up.
Okay, so what's at the bottom?
The foundation is experiences. The daily interactions, the tasks assigned, the feedback given. Positive experiences over time foster positive beliefs within the team.
Beliefs like, my manager trusts me, or my contribution matters.
Right. And those beliefs then drive the team's collective actions, how they collaborate, how much discretionary effort they put in, whether they share information openly.
And those actions are what ultimately produce the results.
Precisely. So if your team believes management doesn't trust them, that's a negative belief. Maybe they'll withhold information or resist new initiatives, negative actions leading to poor results.
So to change that belief, the manager has to consciously design positive experiences.
Yes. For example, delegate meaningful decision-making authority on a small, manageable project. That experience can start to shift their belief from, I'm just a cog, to, my judgment is valued.
The curriculum gives a 4-step cycle for this intentional relationship building.
Yeah, it's practical. Plan it. Design the positive experience, ideally getting team input on what would be meaningful. Provide it. Execute that plan consistently. Make it real. Ask about it. Check in afterwards. How did that land? Did it have the intended effect? And interpret it. Analyze the feedback. Maybe use an after-action review, learn from it, and adjust the next experience you plan.
So it's not just random acts of kindness. It's intentional behavioral science applied to leadership.
You nailed it. It's systematic. And a big part of designing those positive experiences involves competency 6. Build a culture of daily gratitude and appreciation. Relationships need fuel, and genuine recognition is high-octane fuel.
And this needs to be, 3-dimensional, not just top-down.
Absolutely. Can't just be some centralized HR program. It has to live and breathe on the floor every day. First, you need day-to-day appreciation. This should be frequent, easy to do, and happen peer-to-peer as well as manager-to-peer.
Like a quick, specific email saying, hey, thanks for handling that difficult customer call so well.
Perfect example, specific and timely. Second is informal recognition. This is more manager-driven, it's decentralized, often spontaneous, and usually more personal.
Like taking a team member out for coffee after they nailed a presentation, or giving someone an afternoon off after a really tough crunch period.
Exactly. The warning here, though, is because it is manager-driven, it often falls off the radar when managers get slammed. And that creates an expectation gap, which can be a withdrawal.
Good point. Okay, in the 3rd dimension.
That's formal recognition. This is usually more centralized, often managed by HR, tied to company-wide programs. Think quarterly awards, bonuses, maybe promotions.
Important for systemic fairness, I guess.
Yes, but the frontline manager's role here is crucial. They have to ensure that even these formal efforts feel genuinely earned and meaningful to the individual and the team. The source material warns really strongly here. If recognition feels forced, like it's just checking a box, or worse, politically motivated.
It backfires.
Massively. Huge withdrawal from the emotional bank account. Does more harm than good.
Okay, so that wraps up the core relationship building. Finally for June, Competency 7 brings it all together. Prioritize all 4 sequential levels of employee engagement, especially given that 70% variance driven solely by the manager. Where should you focus your efforts?
You need a diagnostic tool, a framework. And this one echoes key findings from Gallup's Q12 work. The levels are sequential. You can't really skip ahead effectively. A frontline leader needs to figure out where their team's biggest gap is and tackle that first.
Makes sense. So level 1.
Level 1 is basic needs. What do I get? This is about fundamental clarity. Do I know what's expected of me in my role? Do I have the materials, the equipment, the basic resources I need to actually do my job?
If the team is unclear on their core tasks or missing basic tools, nothing else matters.
Pretty much. All the fancy development efforts built on top of that shaky foundation will likely fail. You have to secure the base first.
Okay, once those basic needs are met.
You move to level 2, individual contribution. What do I give? This focuses squarely on their specific role. Do I get to use my strengths every day? Do I feel like my manager actually cares about me as a person? Am I getting recognized for my good work?
So here, the manager is helping them connect their unique skills and efforts to the team's success.
Exactly. Making their contribution feel valued and visible. Then you can escalate to level 3, teamwork. Do I belong?
This sounds like connection and mission.
It is. Do my opinions seem to count here? Do I feel connected to my colleagues? Do I understand and feel aligned with the company's overall mission and purpose? If an employee feels isolated or like their work doesn't connect to anything bigger, their performance often stagnates.
And the final level.
Level 4 is growth. How do I grow? This is about future potential. Is someone talking to me about my progress? Are there opportunities for me to learn new skills, maybe get mentorship?
So a good manager isn't just waiting for the annual review. They're kind of cycling through these needs, constantly assessing and addressing gaps.
That's the idea. Continuous diagnosis and development tailored to where the team and individuals within it actually are.
Okay, so June was all about building that bedrock of trust, essential stuff. Because now we shift gears into July, and the focus moves squarely to creating a culture of shared input and ideas. How do you make sure those trusted relationships actually translate into people feeling safe enough to speak up, contribute, challenge?
Right. And that whole journey, according to the curriculum, starts with a potentially sobering concept for ambitious managers. Competency 1. Follow the law of the lid to multiply your effectiveness.
The law of the lid. Okay, I've heard this one. It basically says your leadership ability is the ceiling, the lid, that determines your maximum level of effectiveness regardless of how hard you work.
Pretty much. It's a stark truth for frontline supervisors who often confuse sheer effort with actual impact. The curriculum uses this interesting compounding math to illustrate it.
Okay, explain that.
Imagine plotting your personal dedication to success on the x-axis, how hard you work, let's say out of 10. And your leadership ability on the axis, also out of 10.
Got it.
If you're a super dedicated worker, maybe a 10 out of 10 on effort, but your actual leadership ability is only, say, a 1, your maximum impact is just 10 times 1, which is 10.
Okay, lots of effort, limited impact because the leadership skill isn't there.
Now contrast that. Imagine a leader who is maybe an 8 out of 10 in dedication, still working very hard, but not quite flat out, but they invest heavily in developing their leadership skills. They read, they practice, they get feedback, and they manage to raise their leadership ability score to a 6.
So 8 dedication times 6 leadership ability.
Their overall impact score is 48.
Wow. Okay, that's a huge difference.
It's massive. And that's the critical insight. Working harder and harder just to maximize your dedication score, that only yields incremental returns. But working smart, investing that effort in raising your leadership ability lid, that has this huge multiplying effect on all your efforts.
So it fundamentally shifts your focus from just transactional management, getting today's tasks done, to strategic leadership development. Improving your capacity to lead others is the highest leverage activity you can do as a frontline supervisor.
Absolutely. But leadership itself, being the boss, introduces an inherent challenge, which leads right into competency 2. Remember to balance authority with approachability.
Yeah. Being the boss automatically creates a kind of barrier, doesn't it? A gravitational pull that can keep people at a distance.
It does, and the sources point out this critical disconnect. Managers overwhelmingly believe they are approachable, like, my door is always open.
But their teams often disagree.
Often, yeah. Why? Because the higher you go, the more insulated you can become. Yeah. You hear less of the unvarnished truth, people filter more. So approachability can't be passive. It has to be intentional and actively managed.
The curriculum talks about it being a two-way street.
Exactly. A two-way flow you need to manage. Flow number 1 is inbound. How welcoming are you, really? Is your physical office space inviting or intimidating? When someone does approach you, do you pause your work, make eye contact, give them your full attention, or do you keep typing while they talk?
Small signals that send big messages. What's the other flow?
Outbound. How often do you proactively go to your team? Do you visit their workspace? Do you just sort of drive by to check in informally, not just when you need something from them, but just to connect?
That proactive piece feels important. So it's not just my door is open, it's I'm coming to you.
Right. And to make those interactions, both inbound and outbound, more meaningful, to actually bridge that authority gap, the curriculum suggests using the 5 H's.
The 5 H's. Okay, what are those? Sounds like a framework for conversation.
It is a way to form deeper, more genuine connections that go beyond just talking about project status. They're conversational anchor points. Heritage, where did you grow up? What's your background story? Heroes, who do you admire personally or professionally, and why?
Interesting. Okay, what else?
Heartaches. What significant professional challenges have you faced and overcome? Sharing appropriately here builds vulnerability. Highlights. What are you proudest of in your career or life? And hopes. What are your future aspirations, career goals, personal dreams?
So a leader who intentionally weaves questions or comments related to these 5 H's into casual chats, they're demonstrating genuine interest in the person, not just the employee delivering tasks.
Exactly. It signals investment. And when you combine that bedrock of trust from June with this genuine approachability, you start creating the optimal climate for ideas, which is competency 3, boosts psychological safety for the entire team.
Psychological safety. P.S. This term is everywhere now, but what's the core definition here?
It's actually pretty simple. Psychological safety is the shared belief held by members of a team that it's safe to take interpersonal risks. You can speak up, offer a crazy idea, ask a question that might seem dumb, admit a mistake.
Without fear of being punished, humiliated, or retaliated against.
Exactly. That's the absolute core of it. And this is the fundamental difference between a team that learns, adapts, and innovates, and a team that just quietly follows the rules until something breaks.
The sources say the highest performing teams actually advance through 4 clear sequential stages of PS. What are they?
Yeah, it's a progression. First, they have to achieve inclusion safety. This is the baseline. Everyone needs to feel like they belong, they're accepted, they're respected simply as a human being, regardless of role or background.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You can't contribute if you don't feel included. What's next?
Once people feel included, they can move to learner safety. This means the environment feels safe enough for them to engage in the learning process, asking questions, even naive ones, experimenting with new things, making mistakes and seeing them as learning opportunities, not career-ending events.
Okay, so safe to be vulnerable in the learning process.
Then comes contributor safety. At this stage, team members feel safe enough to actually use their skills and knowledge to make a meaningful contribution. They feel comfortable cultivating ownership, taking accountability, acting with some autonomy. They can suggest process improvements or take the lead on a task.
So safe to make a difference. And the final stage.
This is the highest level and the most crucial for innovation. Challenger safety. Here, the team feels safe enough to challenge the status quo, to debate ideas respectfully, push boundaries, criticize existing processes.
Even challenge the manager's ideas.
Especially challenge the manager's ideas. Without worrying about punishment or damaging their reputation, this is where the best thinking emerges, from constructive dissent.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting for me. The sources stress this formula. Psychological safety plus motivation and accountability equals game-changing performance.
Yes, this is critical. Yeah. If you have high PS, everyone feels safe and comfortable, but you have low accountability and low motivation, you end up in the apathy zone.
Sounds nice, but unproductive.
Exactly. It's comfortable, friendly, everyone gets along, but nothing much gets done. Performance is mediocre. You need both PS and accountability.
So the PS ensures the ideas and concerns surface safely.
And the motivation and accountability ensure there's the drive, the ownership, the urgency to actually act on those ideas and address those concerns. The goal is the learning zone, high PS, high accountability. That's where teams thrive, adapt, and innovate continuously.
Okay, that really clarifies the why. So the rest of the July competencies are practical tools for actually getting that safe input right, starting with competency 4, fostering, engaging, and productive team huddles.
Right, meetings, everyone's favorite topic. The biggest pitfall here, the manager treating the huddle like their personal stage for an information dump. Here's what you need to know.
Instead of a conversation.
Exactly. The 80-20 rule is key here. As the leader, you should aim to be listening 80% of the time and only telling or directing 20%. The feel should be like a group problem-solving session, a collaborative discussion, not a top-down briefing.
How do you achieve that? The curriculum gives a checklist, doesn't it?
It does. Simple things, but often overlooked. You must prepare. Don't waste people's time with disorganized meetings. Have a purpose be crystal clear on what you need to achieve by the end. Encourage participation, actively solicit input, ask open-ended questions, maybe designate someone else to run the meeting or take notes.
Keep people engaged too, right? Not just droning on.
Yeah, keep engagement high, vary the format, use visuals, maybe breakout groups. And crucially, embrace healthy conflict. Make it clear that respectful disagreement and debate are welcomed, even expected. That links back to challenger safety.
So the manager's job isn't just to run the meeting, but to actively work on improving one or two of these elements in how they run meetings.
That's the continuous improvement mindset, yeah. Pick one area, maybe encouraging more participation, and focus on that for the next few huddles.
Okay. Then competency 5 introduces a really fundamental management habit. Use employee rounding to capture immediate feedback and ideas.
Rounding. This is presented as something you do throughout your day, not just scheduling a block for it. It's an action, a practice.
And it's not formal performance reviews, right? It's more informal check-ins.
Exactly. It's a deliberate, usually brief practice of connecting with individual team members. The idea is that most operational challenges tend to fall into one of 3 buckets: people issues, effectiveness, skills, morale; process issues or structure issues, efficiency, tools, org design.
And rounding is the manager's way to consistently diagnose which bucket the current friction falls into.
Right. It provides a structured way to gather that frontline intelligence. The sources outline 4 key rounding questions that are really effective.
Okay, what are they?
Question 1, what is working well? Start with the positive, gather best practices, provide reinforcement. Question 2, do you have what you need? This checks on resources, tools, information, back to those basic needs from the engagement levels. Question 3, is there anything I can do to help you? This is about removing obstacles, showing support, demonstrating servant leadership. And question 4, is there anyone on the team who has been especially helpful to you recently?
Instant recognition opportunities, linking back to gratitude.
Exactly. It surfaces peer-to-peer support and gives the manager immediate opportunities for those day-to-day appreciation deposits. By consistently asking these 4 questions, the manager builds this continuous feedback loop and actively hunts for those small friction points before they become big problems.
Okay, moving from individual check-ins to group innovation. Competency 6 is all about brainstorming effectively to maximize creative thinking.
Yeah.
And maybe just as importantly, how not to brainstorm.
Yeah, the How to Kill brainstorming list is a fantastic self-check for any leader about to run an idea session.
What's on the list?
Things like, never let senior management speak first. Their opinion instantly anchors the room and stifles more junior ideas. Don't just bring in look-alike experts who all think the same way. You need diverse perspectives. And definitely avoid encouraging only professional buttoned-up behavior.
You need a bit of psychological safety, maybe even silliness, to get the wild ideas flowing.
Exactly. You need people to feel safe suggesting something off the wall. So instead of those killers, effective brainstorming is structured but rapid.
What's the structure?
First, spend maybe 5-10 minutes really nailing down and agreeing on the specific problem you're trying to solve. Get clarity. Then, dedicate just 10 minutes to pure idea generation. Aim for quantity, maybe 25 plus ideas. No criticism allowed at this stage.
Just get them all out there.
Right. Then take 5-10 minutes to discuss, combine, and select maybe the top 3 most promising ideas or combinations. And finally, spend 10 minutes actually drawing or visually mapping out the chosen solution.
That visual step sounds interesting. Forces concrete thinking.
It does. And the rapid pace, the constraints, they actually force creativity and prevent analysis paralysis.
Okay. And the last competency for July, number 7, is a really smart, proactive risk management technique for any project. Lead a project pre-mortem to anticipate issues.
The pre-mortem, I love this one. It's the polar opposite of a post-mortem. A post-mortem looks back at a failure after it happened to figure out why.
A pre-mortem imagines total failure before you even start.
Exactly. It cleverly harnesses the team's natural skepticism, worries, and anxieties in a really productive, structured way.
How does it work in practice? Let's say we're rolling out a new software system.
Okay, you gather the project team and you say, all right, everyone, imagine it's 6 months from now. The rollout of this new system has been a complete disaster. Sales are down 50%, our users hate it, half the team has quit in frustration. It failed spectacularly.
Ouch.
Now you continue. Individually, take the next 5 minutes and write down every single reason you can think of why this project failed so badly.
So by asking them to imagine looking back from that future failure, it feels safer. They aren't criticizing the current plan directly.
Precisely. Psychological safety goes way up. They're diagnosing a hypothetical future catastrophe, not attacking today's decisions. Then you structure the process.
Oh.
Everyone shares their reasons for failure, no judgment. You capture them all. Then you group them into common themes, maybe inadequate training, software bugs, poor communication, unrealistic timeline.
Okay, you see the patterns.
Then you use a simple voting method, like giving everyone 3 points, 2 points, and 1 point to allocate to the themes they think are the biggest threats. Tally the votes.
So you prioritize the top risks.
Exactly. You identify the top, say, 3 potential failure points. Then you have a focused discussion. What can we do now, before we even start, to mitigate or prevent these specific top threats?
And the final step is crucial.
Absolutely. Create a concrete action plan. For each mitigation strategy, assign an owner and set a deadline. This isn't just a theoretical exercise. It directly informs and strengthens the project plan before you invest significant resources. It saves so much pain down the line.
Right, so we've built trust in June, opened the floodgates for input in July. Now we jump ahead to the September competencies in the curriculum, focusing on what feels like a constant reality for frontline leaders. Navigating and embracing change, this is where that leadership lid really gets tested, right? Leading the team through uncertainty.
Definitely. And it starts with how you frame the situation. Competency 1 is about perspective. Use the wide-angle lens for alignment before acceleration.
Okay, wide-angle lens, explain that. Because when change hits, the instinct is often to just react, right? Put out the immediate fires.
Exactly. That's what the source calls the telephoto lens. You're zoomed way in, focusing hour to hour on the urgent crises, the short-term fixes. It feels productive, like you're busy solving problems.
But it's rarely strategic.
Right. So the curriculum contrasts 3 lenses. There's the telephoto, urgent, crisis-focused, immediate. There's a standard lens, our normal day-to-day operational view. And then there's the wide-angle lens.
Which captures the bigger picture.
Yeah. The entire landscape, the long-term strategy, the overall company vision, the core priorities that matter most, regardless of the current turbulence.
So when a major organizational change lands, maybe a merger, a big system overhaul, a sudden mandate to cut costs, the manager's natural tendency is to hit the accelerator, start solving the most obvious, urgent problems generated by the change.
But the advice here is resist that urge. You actually need to slow down first. Step back. Consciously put on that wide-angle lens and realign your team and yourself with what is truly most important in the bigger picture before you start executing frantically on the change.
Because acceleration without alignment just leads to chaos, frantic confusion.
Precisely. People are working hard but maybe on the wrong things, or pulling in different directions because they've lost sight of the strategic objective.
How does this translate into practical action for a manager, like week to week?
It ties directly into weekly planning. Using the wide-angle lens means consciously identifying your key roles and most important contributions. Stephen Covey's Big Rocks. What are the 2-3 things that, if done consistently, will make the biggest strategic difference over time?
And you schedule those big rocks into your week first. Before the urgent stuff, the emails, the small fires, fill up all your time.
Exactly. Schedule the important before the urgent crowds it out. That wide-angle perspective ensures that even during turbulent change, you're dedicating focused time to activities that connect to the long-term vision, not just reacting to the issues screaming the loudest right now.
Okay, strategic perspective first. Next, the curriculum addresses the common reasons why change initiatives fail. Competency 2. Consider the 5 critical elements required for complex change.
Right. This is a diagnostic tool for the leader. When implementing any significant new initiative, the leader needs to self-assess. Have I adequately addressed these 5 critical areas? Because if a change effort stalls or meets heavy resistance,
it's almost always because one or more of these 5 elements are missing or weak.
That's the argument. If change isn't happening, check these 5 things. First, is there a clear vision? Do people understand why this change is necessary and where we're trying to go?
The why. Okay.
Second, does the team have the necessary skills? Do they know how to do things in the new way? Have they been trained?
The how makes sense. Third,
are there appropriate incentives? What's in it for them? Is participation recognized or rewarded? Is there a clear benefit to adopting the new way, or does it just feel like extra work?
the what's in it for me, crucial. Fourth,
Fourth, do they have the required resources? Enough time, budget, staffing, tools, support from other departments? Can they realistically do the change?
The means. Okay, and fifth.
Fifth, is there a clear action plan? Do people know the specific steps, the timeline, who's responsible for what? Is there a roadmap?
Vision, skills, incentives, resources, action plan. So if you, as the leader, have communicated the vision, provided the skills training, secured resources, and laid out an action plan, but the change still isn't happening.
The framework suggests you should probably look hard at the incentives. That's often the missing piece. The team may understand why, know how, have the tools, and see the plan, but they don't see any personal benefit, or maybe they even see personal downsides to making the effort.
So this framework helps the leader pinpoint the real bottleneck quickly, instead of just repeating the vision louder or blaming the team.
Exactly. It's a practical diagnostic. Once those 5 elements are reasonably addressed at the organizational level, the leader then has to secure individual buy-in, which brings us to competency 3. Gain buy-in one person at a time with the ADKAR framework.
ADKAR. Okay, I know this one. ADKAR. It's about managing the people side of change, right?
Precisely. Because organizational change often fails, not because the strategy or the plan is inherently bad, but because individual employees get stuck somewhere along the transition journey. They don't understand why it's happening or how it affects them personally, or they don't know how to do the new thing.
So ADKAR breaks down that individual journey into sequential steps.
Yes. 5 steps that cover the life cycle of change for an individual. The first 2 steps are about letting go of the current state. First, the employee needs awareness. They need to understand the business reasons, the why behind the need for change. Why is the status quo no longer sustainable?
Just awareness isn't enough, though.
Nope, that's crucial. Awareness might make them understand intellectually, but it doesn't mean they want to change. The second step is desire. They need to develop a personal motivation to participate and support the change.
And the manager's role here is to help them connect the change to their own YFM, what's in it for me.
Exactly. How does this change benefit them? Or maybe, how does not changing negatively impact them? Fostering that desire is key.
Okay, awareness and desire get them willing to leave the current state. What about the transition state itself?
That's the next 2 letters. K is for knowledge. They need the how-to, the training, the information, the understanding of the new processes or systems. And A is for ability.
Knowledge isn't the same as ability.
Not at all. Knowledge is theoretical understanding. Ability is the demonstrated capability to actually implement the required new skills and behaviors. It's turning knowing what to do into actually doing it proficiently.
So the manager's role shifts here from explaining and training knowledge to coaching, practicing, and providing feedback ability.
Absolutely. That's where the hands-on support comes in. And finally, once the change is implemented, you reach the future state. But you're not done yet. The last letter is R for reinforcement.
Making it stick.
Yeah. What mechanisms are in place to sustain the change? Recognition for using the new methods, positive feedback, maybe performance metrics aligned with the new way, celebrating successes, things that prevent people from slipping back into the old comfortable habits once the initial push is over.
So a good manager uses ADKAR like a checklist for each team member, assessing where they are. Are they stuck at awareness? Do they need more support building ability? And tailoring their approach accordingly.
That's the power of it. It makes change management personal and targeted, not one size fits all. And that individual approach links directly into competency 4. Understand and adapt your influencing style for better results.
Okay, influencing styles. The source material makes a really interesting point here. People generally prefer to be influenced in the same way they naturally influence others.
It's a profound insight, isn't it? We tend to use the influence style that feels most comfortable and authentic to us, assuming it will work on others.
So if my natural style is, say, very logical and data-driven, I'll probably try to influence everyone else using logic and data.
Right. But that might completely miss the mark with someone who is primarily moved by inspiration or relationship building or a sense of urgency. If you only use your default style, you significantly limit your ability to connect with and persuade people who operate differently.
So to maximize results, frontline leaders need to become more ambidextrous, flexible in their influence approach.
Exactly. They need a broader toolkit.
Yeah.
The curriculum uses the BRAIN acronym to outline 5 common influence styles. Managers need to be able to recognize which style someone else is using or which might be most effective with that person and then adapt.
Okay, BRAIN. What are the styles?
B is for bridging. This style focuses on building relationships, finding common ground, appealing to connection and collaboration. R is for rationalizing. This is the logic and facts approach, using data, evidence, reasoned arguments.
Okay.
A is for asserting. This style relies on authority, rules, setting clear expectations, sometimes creating a sense of urgency or consequences. A is for inspiring. This focuses on vision, shared values, the big picture, appealing to emotions and possibilities.
And then?
N is for negotiating. This is about finding compromises, making trade-offs, looking for mutual concessions, give and take.
So a leader needs to be able to diagnose the situation and the person, and then consciously choose the most effective BRAIN style, rather than just defaulting to their own habit.
That's the goal. Listen for the style the other person is using. Are they focused on data, relationships, urgency, and try to meet them there? Or consider the outcome you need and select the style most likely to achieve it in that specific conversation. It requires moving outside your comfort zone intentionally.
Okay, that's powerful. Finally, we reach competency 5 for September. And this one feels like it brings the entire deep dive full circle, right back to internal accountability and self-awareness. Remember, emotions don't just happen, and reframe your story.
Yes, this is huge. It's perhaps the most powerful self-management tool in the whole curriculum, drawing heavily from the work done in crucial conversations. We often feel like our emotions just happen to us, like we're victims of anger or fear or frustration.
But the process is actually more mechanical, isn't it? Yeah. There's a path.
There is. It goes like this. 1, we observe an event. Something happens, someone says something or doesn't do something. 2, we instantly, often unconsciously, tell ourselves a story about that event. We interpret it, add meaning, make assumptions. 3, then based on that story, we feel an emotion, anger, disappointment, anxiety. 4, and finally, we act based on that feeling. Often, if the story is negative, we act destructively.
So the critical insight, the leverage point, is between the event and the feeling. It's the story.
Exactly. The event itself doesn't directly cause the emotion. The story we tell ourselves about the event is what generates the feeling. And here's the empowering part. Any set of facts, any event, can be used to tell an almost infinite number of different stories.
Which means we can take back control by choosing to tell a different, more accurate, or more helpful story.
Precisely. We can consciously choose our interpretation, but we have these default, often unhelpful, clever stories that we tell ourselves, especially when things go wrong or we feel threatened. The curriculum highlights 3 common ones.
Okay, what are these clever stories?
First is the victim's story. It's not my fault. We emphasize our own innocence, portray ourselves as helpless sufferers. I tried my best, but they wouldn't listen, or this always happens to me.
Okay, the victim. What else?
Second is the villain story. It's all your fault. We exaggerate the other person's negative qualities, assign malicious intent, turn them into the bad guy. He's incompetent, or she deliberately sabotaged my project.
So we absolve ourselves by blaming them. And the third one?
The third is the helpless story. There's nothing else I can do. We convince ourselves we're powerless to change the situation. The system is just broken, or my hands are tied, or it wouldn't make a difference anyway.
Victim, villain, helpless. They all let us off the hook for taking responsibility, don't they?
They do. So to break free from these unhelpful emotional cycles, the manager needs to learn to recognize when they're telling one of these stories. They need to pause, retrace their path back to the objective facts. What did I actually see and hear? And separate that from the subjective story they added.
Challenge their own assumptions.
Yeah.
Look for their own contribution to the problem, even if it's small.
Yes. Ask, what role did I play here? And take personal accountability for their part. By consciously choosing to tell a more complete, more balanced, more factual story, maybe a story that assumes good intent or focuses on shared goals, the manager changes the emotion that follows.
And by changing the emotion, they change how they act, leading to a much more constructive outcome.
Exactly. It all comes back to managing yourself first.
Yeah.
#tag outro. So when you look at everything we've covered today, it's clear this is a really holistic, very actionable curriculum. And it's specifically designed for that person who holds arguably the greatest leverage in any organization.
That frontline manager, yeah. The one who, as we said right at the start, determines 70% of their team's engagement level. That's an incredible responsibility and opportunity.
It really is. But it demands constant, conscious effort. Total intentionality, as you said earlier.
Yeah, from understanding the almost mathematical nature of the trust equation, especially that tricky intimacy component.
Mm-hmm. And thinking about those daily emotional bank account deposits.
To using proactive risk management tools, like the pre-mortem, before launching something new.
To remembering to step back and use that wide-angle lens during the chaos of change.
And maybe most fundamentally, that constant internal work of recognizing and reframing our own emotional stories before we react. It's a continuous loop, isn't it? A leadership challenge that never really ends.
It doesn't. So for you listening, we really encourage you to reflect on this whole curriculum we've unpacked. Look across those three big pillars: building trust, cultivating input, and navigating change. What's the one competency, maybe that single moment from today, that you're going to consciously focus on improving in your own leadership practice this week?
Just pick one thing to start. Because remember that law of the lid, even a small increase in your leadership ability can have that powerful multiplying effect on your team's results and engagement. And maybe as a final provocative thought for you to chew on, building directly on that essential last competency about reframing emotions will leave you with the ultimate self-reflection question posed in the source material. It's really the highest form of accountability, isn't it? It is. How can you consciously work on me first to interact more effectively with everyone around you? Because ultimately, mastering that external world of leadership effectiveness seems to require that continuous, deliberate mastery of our own internal self-awareness.